Hello everyone, it's Silvia from Feel Like Tarot. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to do a really fun tag, which is a VR to Sharon from the trio Witches Tarot, and it's called Bonded Deck Pairs. Now technically this tag has been created by Sharon for Valentine's Day, which is the 14th of February. And I'm slightly behind simply because I'm still overseas. I don't have access to the bulk of my tarot decks, but I do have a few, and I do have a few unboxing videos in these couple of weeks, because I've been to Italy and France and I've been buying decks left and right because they're so cute and so beautiful, and actually, let's face it, they're just so much cheaper than to get them from Australia. So I do have a few decks, and I was going through the prompts of her tag and I was thinking to myself, I could probably do it with the decks that I've got, but I'll let you be the judge. So let's have a look at the prompt. So the first prompt is the cute couple. Now, for this one, I've actually chosen two decks that are, let's say I am very much in love myself, to stay in the love team. I'm very much in love with these two decks because they really, let's say, they represent a theme that has been really close to my heart in the last, I would say, 5 or 6 years. Well, no, actually, even longer than that, because I've had this really strong love for Japan and Japanese culture my entire life. Being Italian, you have to know that Italians are very much enamored with the Japanese culture, because at least my generation, when we grew up, we had access to manga and anime. Obviously, they were translated and dubbed in Italian, but there were those same cartoons, the animated TV shows that kids in Japan were watching, and probably also in other countries, because I imagine if they were translating that in Italian, they could have been translated also in English. But in any case, so that started many years ago, and I really always loved Japanese culture and everything related to Japan. And a few years ago, I started studying Japanese language as well, and that has given me an even additional access to point of entry to appreciating this culture even more. And so I started collecting all of the decks that, let's say, remind me of Japan, or even Japanese decks themselves, like Stella's Tarot, the Amano Tarot as well, for example, is one of those. But especially in the last, let's say, couple of years, I've really gone down the rabbit hole when it comes to the yokai, the culture around yokai. Yokai is a Japanese term that, it points to a supernatural being. And sometimes I have to say that now that I'm in Italy, I've been to France as well, I've noticed that there's this massive attention about yokai in Europe, and so many publications when it comes to literature and even decks, to be honest with you. But in a few cases, I've seen it translated with the word monster, so the equivalent in French and Italian of the word monster. I don't actually believe that yokais are monsters, simply because monster misses out completely the point. So we're talking about something supernatural that has a spirit, that has a background story, even a hero's journey, and in many cases, well, of course there's hundreds of them, so in many cases they're actually downright evil, let me put it this way. But in other cases, they're just, it's almost as if it were a parallel world to the one we're living in, and, crossing the boundaries and sometimes even integrating into our society. So calling them monsters, I think it misses the point. But going back to the decks, so this is the cute couple, and the reason why this is the cute couple is because these two decks together are actually really cute, and I couldn't find any other way to express that. So I'm talking about the Manga Tarot. This is a Lo Scarabeo deck, and again, I can't really find the publication here, but it's one of those older decks by Lo Scarabeo with all the borders and all the languages, around the borders, which is absolutely fine. We're okay with that. As a matter of fact, I do prefer them borderless, but it's fine. These borders are not obtrusive. Obviously, you do have the languages at the top especially, but it's fine. And then I'm actually pairing it up with L'Oracle du Soleil Levant. This has been published by Arcana Sacra, which is a mass market producer from France that had been, I think they sold to a different company now, I'm not entirely sure, but they're still publishing. So, you know, fingers crossed, because they actually picked up a lot of those decks that were produced indie by French authors or Canadian authors, and then they made them mass market, which is, you know, for us collectors, to be honest with you, obviously if you're buying a deck for collection purposes, you will want the indie deck because it's the first edition. But when it comes to a reader, a tarot reader, I mean, we have to look at our wallets, and so a mass market deck is actually a better option for us. So this is a French deck, as I said. It's a really beautiful book, by the way. And the images and the art styles are very, you know, centered around the Japanese culture. So Soleil Levant means the rising sun, which is the name that is generally speaking given to the land of the East, so Japan. In this case, there's also, I think there was a movie from many years ago, I think with a similar title, with a very young, like a kid, Christian Bale, and it was based on the Second World War, and it was a kid that he lost his parents. I mean, his parents were alive, but they literally got lost, and he has to survive on his own. And you know, he's a British kid, and he was so used to have all the advantages of you know, being rich and everything, and all of a sudden he finds himself in a situation in which he has to literally just find food and shelter and warmth and everything in you know, I think it was just around the end of the war. So these two are the cute couple because, well, when it comes to the art style, the manga tarot is actually cute. Not that all mangas are cute, but it's just the expression on the faces of the characters that I really like. But overall, they are cute together with the Oracle of the Rising Sun, because I really believe that even though they don't necessarily share the same art style and not even the same color palette, even though we do have a pretty complete kind of color palette between the two of them, I still think that there is this kind of sense of respect, mutual respect, but also admiration and worship between the two. And if you think about a cute couple, if you think in your amongst your you know, your friends and family, if you think about a cute couple, you do kind of see those characteristics, you know, of mutual admiration, and you know, looking at each other with love in their eyes, etc. And I really find this happening between these two decks. Obviously, they have a very similar theme because, you know, manga is typical of the Japanese culture, so it's actually depicting something related to Japan, and obviously the Oracle is dealing with the same theme as well. When it comes to reading, I have to say it's also kind of not necessarily a hug decks kind of reading, but it's not one of those reading that actually slaps you in the face. And when it comes to the Oracle, I have to say that I don't know it well enough to be able to actually assign a keyword, for example, to what I'm seeing in the images. So obviously this is referring to the taiko drum, which is always used to, and you've probably seen it in many matsuri. So the matsuris are festivals, regional festivals, and there's very skilled, I have to say, musicians that go around in a parade, and they play this drum very loud, very you know, the waves are reverberating. You can feel them in your chest if you're close by. I've been to a couple of matsuri and it was absolutely fantastic, generally speaking in summer. And they're just, you know, every single city or major city has one, and they're slightly different, but more or less, you know, they have the same kind of pattern, let's say. But it's I don't, as I was saying, I don't necessarily know the Oracle well enough to be able to read it in combination with the manga tarot. But I'm getting that because it's a deck that I just got last week, and I had been looking at it a few times together with the guidebook. But I have to say, in this case, I really love when there's you know, this combination, for example, it really speaks highly of this idea of tradition, because it shows the traditional dresses and stuff, and I really like it when there's this kind of combination. So this is definitely, to me, it's a cute couple, and it's between the Manga Tarot and the Oracle of the Rising Sun. So the next prompt is called the Polyamorous Couple, or, well, not necessarily a couple, because polyamorous means, you know, more than 2 people involved. And in this case, it's actually about 3 decks. But bear with me, because it's kind of an experiment, because I'm not entirely sure that those 3 will actually get along together. So we have to see what happens. So I'm talking about the Oracle Magique Medium. This is the French version, mass market version of an English, originally, I think, an English Oracle deck, indie deck. I prefer this version because the original English, indie, had really wide white borders. And you all know what I think about borders. I go back and forth. Sometimes I actually appreciate them, sometimes I don't. I can't make up my mind. I really don't know. But in any case, bear with me. What I need to do is probably, let's see if I can zoom out a little bit, because otherwise we cannot see all 3 of them. So I'm pairing up this one with the Witch Sister Tarot, which is a very recent acquisition, and I absolutely love this deck. And as I was saying in my unboxing video, I love it so much because it's one of those decks that you really look forward to, and everyone else has got it, but because you live in Australia or Argentina, I was talking to some of you from Argentina, and you do seem to share the same problems as Australia when it comes to availability of decks and release dates of decks. And then I'm going to pair it up, or pair them up, with the Oracle de la Sorcière Guérisseuse, which is translates into the Oracle of the Healing Witch. Now, this by Artemis Rose, illustrated by Stephanie Gras. Now, this is also an Oracle deck I was so very grateful to be able to find in France, because I've been following the creator's account for Instagram account for a while. And I saw the creation of this deck, and I always like, oh my god, it's so beautiful, I really want it. And when I saw that it was actually available, I think on Amazon France, I thought to myself, okay, well, you know, I'm going to Paris, so it stands to reason to believe that it's actually going to be available in a just a normal bookstore as well. And it was so, and then I got it. And I'm so very happy that I did, because these 3 together, believe it or not, they're actually really good. So what I do, let me just shuffle this one because I haven't as yet. Okay, so after a few trials, I decided that the best way in which these 3 work together is actually with this kind of layout. So we've got the Witch Sister Tarot on the sides here. Then we've got the Oracle of Magic and Mediums at the bottom here, and the Oracle of the Healing Witch at the top. And I really love the way in which these 2 especially go back and forth, and they create that kind of bridge of meaning as a focus for me to be able to understand how to situate the tarot cards, or the meaning of the tarot cards on the sides. Now, this way, I believe it's actually the best way, but if you've tried pairing these 3 together, let me know what you think, because I know that the Witch Sister Tarot is actually quite popular. I've seen it, as I said, in many channels while I was still waiting to get it. And there's a few channels that actually show pairings. I think Sharon herself has been showing the pairings for this deck, and they're absolutely stunning. I really love it with the Magic and Mediums. but I think that it kind of needs the this top oracle as well, because it kind of, and I really do believe that it's the you know, the explanation of the polyamorous couple, because in this case we really understand that sometimes you do need another perspective. Sometimes you need something that actually grounds you, especially when there's two decks that have this kind of conversation between each other. And so it's really kind of interesting to see how these three work together. There's something going on between the cards, you can definitely tell. So the way in which I use these three together, as I said, I just have, I let these two literally talk to each other. So we've got the Oracle Magique Medium at the bottom with the card of the Guardian. And I pair it up with the Oracle of the Sorcière Guérisseuse at the top, this one here, that shows the woman, the lady, let's say the lady of the moths, because Papillon de Nuit is the butterflies of the night, so basically these are moths. And it talks about the keywords are metamorphosis, transformation, very similar, and mysteries. So we can actually kind of go deeper, a level deeper, thanks to the fact that we have to look at this card through the lens of the guardianship. So this metamorphosis and transformation, it talks about a guardianship, or something that we need to access, but we need also a guide, or we need to make sure that we're actually going through when we are at the right stage in our lives in order to be able to access that kind of transformation that is expressed by this card. So once I do that, I also get access to a deep and even deeper, or a third layer of interpretation, by looking at the tarot cards that are at the side. So we've got the Six of Trees and the Five of Waters. So in this case, obviously, we're looking what trees, the suit of trees is that has been renamed, but it's the suit of wands. So in the Six of Wands, as we can call it, we do look at that kind of triumph and celebration of a victory, but it's also a reminder of the recognition that we need to give to our team, because yes, we did indeed reach that goal, but not alone, and you cannot reach that alone. And it's a kind of a reconciliation after the Five of Wands, in which everyone has been kind of competing with each other, but then when they finally, you know, sit down and have an actual conversation and they can agree on something, that's when you reach something. But the Five of Waters is also reminding us that sometimes when it comes to feelings, we can also feel this sense of loss, abandonment. And you know, the Five of Waters or Cups comes after the Four of Cups, in which we can feel the sense of restlessness. So after the sense of restlessness, we have this kind of sense of loss. So I'm really liking this kind of conversation. It almost tells me that we're entering that kind of transformation when it's the right time in our lives to do so, because it's something that we have achieved thanks to the work of recognition of everyone around us, our friends, our spiritual guides, etc. But we also need to bring with us that sense of loss. It's part of who we are. So in the victory, never forget that we have felt this way once before. So it's kind of, you know, it's very grounding, it's very wise. It really does give you the kind of possibility to look at the cards and let them speak to you in a very specific way. And that to me is a very good example of the polyamorous couple, or you know, polyamorous relationship, because in this case it really does assign to each and every one of these decks the right spot in the relationship, the right way to behave in a relationship. And each and every one of them actually brings about all the qualities that really distinguish them and makes them unique and makes them who they are. And, you know, other than that, you always have to look at the aesthetics as well. And I really do believe that, especially these two together, but then, you know, and then perhaps these two together. So there is this kind of conversation going. And this one is very slippery. As you can see, the cards keep on spinning on me, which is fine. It's kind of fun. But yeah, I really like these three together. So as we said, the Magique Medium, La Sorcière Guérisseuse, and this is the Witch Sister Tarot. And the next prompt is the Enigmatic Couple, and for this prompt I've actually chosen these two decks together, the Tarot Pop Culture by Bérengère de Moncy and Juliette Nicolas Oracle de la Magie Nordique. These are both French decks. Now the reason why I've chosen these two, but also for the fact that we're talking about enigmatic kind of couple, and it's a kind of couple that you look at them and you see that they actually work together, but you really cannot for your life decide why they actually work together. And I think that in this case, I actually had the same kind of reaction when I saw these two together. I was trying them out. Also, I was posting on Instagram and, you know, I was asking around and people said that they actually really work together. And the reason why I think it's enigmatic is indeed because you wouldn't think that they actually were a good couple, you know, together. And perhaps they fight all the time, perhaps they don't agree on things, and perhaps it's, you know, it's a bit of a rocky kind of relationship, and so you think that it's actually doomed. But in the end, they're always together, they're still together, and it's kind of a really good relationship as well. So they actually complement each other when you know, they find enough time to stop yelling at each other. So it's the kind of relationship that sometimes can be, as I said, a bit rocky, a bit noisy, but at the end of the day it actually works. Or that's, at least that's the way in which I interpret this this kind of prompt. So just, you know, have a look at how these two interact together. I really do believe that they work. So we're talking about, obviously, the Magie Nordique is an oracle that is focusing on the runes and everything that is related to the Nordic or Norse kind of mythology and culture. And so, you know, symbology and everything. Whereas the Pop Culture Tarot is a deck that is actually referring back to, well, pop culture, as you can imagine. And I really, really love it. It's one of those decks that for each and every card, when I did the unboxing video, I was like, oh my God, yes, of course, I remember this. And in other cases, I was like, okay, I really don't know this kind of reference, so I have to go back to the book and check it out. And sometimes it was just, I know that I know this, but I don't know it right now. And it's been so much fun. I've actually used this deck a lot, also for, you know, my members' readings. In one case, because I reached out to this this member of my membership program and asked her if it was okay for me to use this deck in specific for her reading. And I knew that she read locked in, and she said, absolutely, you can go ahead because it's really nice. There's so many references to movies, especially movies, let's say, but also TV shows that very, for us, have a lot of resonance because, you know, in my case, I really recognize all of them. And for example, we see here Eric Draven, which is the protagonist of The Crow. And, you know, I was reading an article a couple of days ago, and we're talking about the fact that they're going to remake, or they've already done that, they remade The Crow, and they're going to release it again mid of this year. And everyone was felt kind of bittersweet about it because it was a fantastic movie. But at the same time, we felt like it really should have been left alone because it was so good. And so, I don't know, I mean, I'm still going to watch it, but it's true that it's going to be difficult to be as good as the original The Crow has been. So what do you think? Do you think this is an enigmatic couple in the sense that, you know, it does work, but at the same time, you really always wonder whether it's you who makes it work? So it's the kind of couple that it's enigmatic because they're still together, but they really have to work a lot to make it work, you know what I mean? And by the way, you can probably still tell from my voice that I'm still a little bit sick, although I am getting better. But so these two, absolutely amazing. Also color-wise, I really like the combination. So this is the Pop Culture Tarot, and this is the Oracle of the Norse Magic. So the next prompt is the Independent Couple. And for this one, I've actually chosen the Lightseers Tarot, and I'm pairing it up with the Lo Scrigno delle Streghe, which is an Italian deck, and it translates roughly into the sorcerer's or the witch's chest. It's a really interesting book. I have to say, I have to explain it this way. It's a very interesting book which has 25 cards that accompany the book. So the reason why I've chosen these two for the independent couple is because indeed the oracle deck needs to be rather independent from the the tarot deck needs to be rather independent from the oracle deck in such a way to actually convey the message. So in this case, it's a bit odd or unusual, because generally speaking, would definitely, you know, use the oracle deck in order to be able to probably understand what the tarot deck is telling me a bit more. But in this case, I find that the Light Seers is very independent. It's doing its own thing, but it chooses to be in a relationship. That's the meaning of the independent couple. So they're not necessarily depending on each other, but they do want to be together. It's a kind of, if you ask me, it's a very healthy kind of relationship as well. And so I was looking for this kind of combination, and I found that even though there is this kind of likeness in the cards, when it comes to the colors especially, but also for the art style, even though the borders do make it difficult to see that, but in many cases we can definitely see the echoes between the cards. But these two decks are independent one from the other, and yet they actually work better together. They can still function when you use them on their own, especially because the oracle deck, as I said, has got a fantastic book. And you know, the Light Seer is probably one of the most famous decks by Chris and Donnelly, and it's one of those decks that you can definitely use it by itself. And yet when you use these two together, you definitely see that kind of additional layer or additional meaning that you can give to the interpretation of the cards. So that to me is, let's say, how an independent relationship should be, in the sense that obviously, you know, the two function even when they by themselves, but they just want and they choose to be together because they acknowledge that by working together they actually produce something even more important, even more significant. And this is, yeah, this is my choice. So the Light Seers Tarot and the Sorcerer's Chest. So the next prompt is the Artistic Couple, and I really love these two decks together. So one is the Mystic Palette Tarot, and this is the German mass market edition of Ciro Marchetti's English original indie deck. And I'm going to pair it up with the Paolo Barbieri's Dante's Inferno, which is an oracle deck published by Lo Scarabeo. And I'm so very excited about these two together because they really look, the art style is by two masters, obviously Ciro Marchetti and Paolo Barbieri. And I know that in many cases, you know, it's very subjective. Obviously, you may not like Ciro's art or Paolo's art, which is absolutely fine, because you know, you have the right to your own opinion. But I do believe that at least there is that need to acknowledge the mastering of a skill, of an artistic skill, especially because I'm not artistic at all, and so I can definitely see something that I will never be able to achieve. And that makes me really, you know, it's kind of an admiration and worship that I have towards someone that can master these kind of skills so well. And these two are just absolutely gorgeous together. They just really, they shine. When you bring them together, they're absolutely shining. Obviously, when it comes to the meaning, or let's say reading the cards, we need to be very aware that whilst the Mystic Palette Tarot is, let's say, a celebration of all sorts of aspects of life, the Dante's Inferno, as you can imagine, is, you know, thematic of hell. And so, but in specific, is the way in which Dante has conceived hell. And so it's a hell that is made because of punishment, because punishment is needed. And it's administered to the ones that have committed sins during their lives. And then when they go through the veil and they pass to the underlife, beyond the veil, they actually are met with some sort of punishment. And if you're familiar with it, there's 9 circles in hell. So Dante conceived hell as some kind of a spiral with 9 circles going deeper, deeper, deeper into, well, despair and abyss and nothing. And depending on which circle of hell you end up, depending on your sins in your life, you know, your punishment is progressively more gloomy and terrible and violent and, well, as you can see, also horrible and scary, etc. So obviously the Dante's Inferno oracle will have that kind of vibes. So we cannot escape that, because obviously there's also the colors that go with that. But what I really do like about the combination between these two is that even though there is this sense of doom that you can tell from the cards of the oracle deck, there's also the way in which the tarot deck is actually bringing them back onto surface. So from the circle of hell, they're actually bringing them back onto life, perhaps, but also with the recommendation of being aware of what is awaiting us, you know, when we don't do what we're supposed to do, or when we're doing something that we're not supposed to. So it's the kind of background drop that you need in some cases in order to be able to stay on the right path, perhaps. And you can read that figuratively, of course, but you can also read that in a literal way, because in many cases, you know, we will show you what the punishment is for something very specific. So in this case, it's the tomb of the heretics. So obviously we need to talk about the fact that Dante was living in a period of time in which the church was domineering, was very dominant. And you know, heretics were pretty much found everywhere, and it could have been anyone just saying something that you know, the church or the clerk didn't really like. So you know, there was this kind of really strong sense of censorship. But we can extrapolate that and talk about it in more like symbological terms. So the symbology of the punishments in the Dante's Inferno can actually be brought back into everyday life, City of the Damned. For me, this one, also on intuition, let's say on an intuitive level, talks about the anxiety of everyday life, as something that is really kind of tainting everything we do. And perhaps it's the very similar card to the 9 of Swords, because it reminds us of that. And so if I look at it with the the Queen of Wands and the Death cards, it definitely tells me how perhaps you need to bring on a mask and put on a mask sometimes, as the performer, as the Queen of Wands does, in order to be able to go through the anxiety of the moment. But then you're looking forward to some kind of a transformation, because this kind of mask is not sustainable. It's not something that you can actually keep on wearing all the time. And also the oracle, you know, as I said before, it serves as some kind of a reminder of what can happen if you do keep on carrying that mask. So this is definitely the artistic couple, and it's between the Mystic Palette Tarot and this one, and the Dante's Inferno oracle. And the next prompt is about the eccentric / quirky couple. And the reason why I do the / eccentric quirky is because I think that these two decks together are both eccentric and a bit quirky. So quirky because it's the octopus star, and eccentric because I'm pairing it up with the Oracle des Abysses. These two together are absolutely fantastic. It's one of those things that happen every now and then, that you find two decks and, you know, they're not supposed to work together, or perhaps you didn't even think about pairing them up. But then for a stroke of genius, you kind of put them together and you go, oh my goodness, where have you been all my life? So it's just absolutely amazing. And you can't wait to use them together. And even then, you know, you feel like you're kind of a third wheel, because these two are such a really loving couple that they don't necessarily need you. You're just there to flip the cards, really, or to listen to the message, because you're being awarded the gift of being there and you know, and being a witness to this conversation. Obviously, because we're talking about the Oracle of the Abyss, referring back to the sea, but we'll have a theme that is very good, you know, for the octopus tarot. But it's not just that. It's not just that they really pair up together because we have octopus on the oracle as well as the tarot, but it's just because it really works. It really works, and it's actually really beautiful. I mean, when we talk about aesthetics, it's really beautiful. There is this sense of black and white as well, even though it's actually the opposite, because the background on the tarot deck is darker, whereas the background on the oracle deck is lighter. But there is this sense of shading as well when we look at the art style, and it's also very similar. I really adore these two together. Are absolutely fantastic, and yet at the same time they are a bit eccentric and they are a bit quirky. Now, when it comes to the octopus tarot, I know for a fact that there is an English version going around. When it comes to the oracle deck, I'm not entirely sure. It seems like it's a rather recent publication. It's a French, well, I do have the French version of it. I have seen it, I bought it in France, and there were a lot of people interested in this deck, a lot of people looking at it, you know, going through the cards. Not, well, perhaps they were window shopping, but a few of them actually bought it. And perhaps it's a recent publication, that's why I'm saying, because it really attracted a lot of attention on everyone that was visiting the bookstore. And, you know, I understand that, because it's actually really nice. But at the same time, because of these presents, it's actually kind of quirky and it's eccentric, and I love it. Really beautiful match. I'm probably gushing, but it's just when these kind of things happen, it's such an amazing thing, you know, being able to have this kind of revelations whenever you're using tarot and oracle decks together. And let's face it, in, you know, for what we're doing when we're reading decks, we're so used to the images and looking at, you know, okay, this is the King of Swords, so immediately go back to the meaning of the card, etc. But sometimes we find that one deck that actually tells us to stop for a moment and just look at the cards and look how beautiful you know, the drawings are. And in a way, this one is also doing that by showing how quirky they are. So I'm really excited that I found these two, because they work so well together. But yeah, it is because of the octopus is a quirky deck, and because of the pairing, it's an eccentric kind of couple. So the octopus tarot and the oracle of the abyss. Okay, so this is my last prompt, and I have to say it wasn't in the original list of Sharon's video. Also, I think I actually skipped a couple of prompts simply because I couldn't really find the decks that will pair up in such a way to, you know, respond to those prompts. But I've actually added one because I think that is actually working really well. So this is the single, okay? This is my contribution to this tag, and it's the single. Because let's face it, in Valentine's Day, even myself, I found myself many times being single, not necessarily in a couple. And you know, sometimes you just you feel just as complete when your own company is the only company you have. And it's absolutely fine. And I just wanted to dedicate that to everyone that is actually single at the moment, whether they want to be or because, you know, they found themselves in this situation, and saying that you can still celebrate Valentine's Day because you are with yourself. And in this case, I've chosen the Oracle Rock because this deck by itself is based on the playing card deck divination system. So in this case, I don't necessarily feel like it needs to be paired up with either a tarot or an oracle deck in order to work. And so I really love it by itself. And as you can imagine, because it's called the Oracle, the Rock Oracle, obviously it's showing you 54 of the most famous magicians and singers of all time. And I really had a great time just looking through the cards and, you know, matching the drawings to you know, the celebrities that I know, and for the ones that I didn't, I had to go back to the gut book, which is a lot of fun, I have to say. I absolutely love this deck. It works really, really well together in any kind of reading that you want to do, reminding yourself that it does have that kind of playing cards deck, let's say, connotation. And so in many ways, it's a deck that reminds us of tarot, but even not that much anyway. So it's kind of fun to use it. And it's definitely a good symbol for the single person that, you know, they're absolutely fine. They function perfectly on their own, and they're happy to be by themselves because that's all they need. So that's a really beautiful deck. I really loved it. And I saw this deck for the first time in Marine's channel, The Waves of Your Soul. And we've got 2 Jokers cards as well, you know, David Bowie and Grace Jones. And I find that it's absolutely fantastic because I love David Bowie. So this is my contribution to this deck, and it's the prompt, the single. And this was a tag to Sharon at Trio of Witches Tarot, and the tag is Bonded Decks Pairs. So I had so much fun, you know, looking at my decks, the ones that I have here, because I'm overseas right now and I have a limited access to decks, obviously, but it was so much fun, you know, trying and see these pairs and see whether they were corresponding to the prompts or not. And I think, you know, I had a lot of fun filming it, and I hope that you guys are having a lot of fun watching it as well. Thanks so much for being with me till the end of this video. More to come. Have a great day.